A question keeps plaguing me. I can't seem to resolve my mind to either side of the spectrum, and something about that bugs me. And I feel like some part of this thought process needs to be made obvious to the public. So, the question: is keeping the latest AI innovations closed source safer than the latest AI innovations completely open source? Is it even possible to know whether the latest innovations are coming from open source or closed source at this point? Will the power of open source innovation become so strong that closed source will basically be pointless? I can imagine people using closed source for their own benefit or to prevent bad events for all life, but then they get the opposite outcome they desire because open source communities are innovating faster than anyone else. This is the stuff that I'm pondering on a lot recently. To attempt to resolve my mind, I decided to debate myself. Using Kialo, I made the statement: keeping the latest AI innovations closed source is safer than completely open sourcing AI. I added a ton of pros and cons for that statement. Many arguments for keeping AI centralized make sense. Many arguments against it also make sense. I seem to have a slight bias towards the open source side, but only slight bias. I was somewhat hoping to come out of this self-debate with a much more solid bias, but I didn't. So, trying to debate this point didn't really seem to get me anywhere. This led to the prompting of the thought: what's the real issue here? The issue is that we don't want to die. We don't want to suffer. And there is potential for bad events to happen, and we either die or suffer. What we need to do is publicly write down every single possible bad event in complex detail and many branching variations. Then, write down how that event can be prevented. Can the event be prevented by keeping the latest AI innovations closed source? Will keeping the latest AI innovations open source increase the likelihood that a bad event happens? Is it pointless to even try to control this? I'm really not sure, even after all this pondering. But I do feel that collaboratively writing down bad events and how we can prevent them has a potential to be valuable. I started writing down a list of bad events in my private notes. They're all still pretty abstract at this point, but I'm planning to write this out in more and more detail so that I can try to have a plan in any future that unfolds. So, what do you think? How can we better prepare for and prevent these bad events? Is making things closed source a part of this? I'm personally very skeptical of centralizing things for the greater good, but at the same time, a lot of the arguments make sense, so I don't know. Either way, we're in the most exciting timeline, and I am hyped to be alive.